There's a river in the far northwest corner of Wisconsin that runs the color of root beer. It pours over 4 waterfalls inside a single small park, and it does so along a crack in the earth that is roughly 500 million years old. To reach the best view, you cross a covered bridge of a design so unusual that few like it were ever built. All of that sits quietly off the highway, a short drive from the city of Superior. Today we are going to walk it, every falls and every footbridge. This is Amnicon Falls State Park. We are in Douglas County, Wisconsin, just southeast of Superior, at the western tip of Lake Superior. The park protects 828 acres along the Amnicon River as it makes its final run toward the big lake. It is a compact park, with nearly 2 miles of walking trails threaded along both banks of the river and out onto an island in midstream. Our hike today is about 2.5 miles, looping past every waterfall in the park. It is the 4th of October, and the North Woods are beginning to turn. The river announces itself before you see it. From the parking area, the trail drops toward a steady, low rumble, and the air cools as the trees close in overhead. Early October means the maples are flaring orange while the pines stay deep green. The path here is soft with needles and fallen leaves. Then the trees open, and there is the water, and it is not the color you expect. The Amnicon runs a clear, deep brown, the exact shade of root beer held up to the light. The color comes from tannins, natural compounds released by decaying plants in the wetlands the river drains upstream. This is not mud and it is not pollution. The water itself is clean and transparent, simply stained the way tea is stained by its leaves. Where the river churns over the falls, that brown water breaks into foam, and the whole scene looks good enough to pour over ice. It is one of the signature sights of Wisconsin's Lake Superior country. We follow the bank upstream, and the rumble sharpens into a roar. The trail rises gently over dark, rounded rock, polished by centuries of high water. Through the trees you catch the first white flash of falling water. Every trail in this park keeps circling back to the river, so you are never far from that sound. Just ahead is the first of the 4 waterfalls, the Upper Falls. The river's name is far older than the park. Amnicon comes from an Ojibwe word, Amnicon, meaning where fish spawn, a name earned every season the fish push upstream into these waters. The Ojibwe were living in this country when the first Europeans arrived, fishing the rivers and traveling the shore of the Great Lake. The name they gave this river outlasted everything that came after, the traders, the miners, and the quarrymen. When you say Amnicon, you are speaking a description of this water that is centuries old. Few park names in Wisconsin carry their history so plainly. Here is the Upper Falls, the largest single drop on the river. The root beer water gathers itself at a dark stone lip and plunges in a broad white curtain into the pool below. The rock it pours over is nearly black, hard and sharp-edged, completely different from the soft forest around it. Mist drifts off the plunge pool and beads on everything near the edge. You can stand remarkably close here, close enough to feel the air the falls pushes ahead of itself. That black rock under the water has a story 1 billion years long. The dark rock at Upper Falls is basalt, the solidified remains of lava that flowed across this entire region about 1 billion years ago. Long before there were trees or fish or anything at all on land, molten rock spread over the country in sheet after sheet and cooled into stone. That ancient lava is what the Amnicon River is pouring over today. Basalt is hard, which is why it holds a sharp ledge instead of wearing down into a gentle slope. Every waterfall needs a shelf of resistant rock, and this one was delivered by volcanoes older than almost anything you will ever touch. Between the waterfalls, the river runs through a shallow, rocky gorge, and the trail rides right along its rim. Look down and you can see the water sliding over ledges and swirling into dark bowls worn in the stone. The rock underfoot changes color as you walk, from near black to a warm reddish brown. That change is not random. Somewhere beneath this trail, two very different worlds of rock meet along a single line. This park sits directly on top of it. That line is the Douglas Fault, a major break in the Earth's crust that formed about 500 million years ago. It extends from east of Ashland, Wisconsin, all the way to near the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Along it, the bedrock south of the fault slowly pushed upward and to the north, riding at an angle of 50 to 60 degrees. The result here is that ancient volcanic basalt was shoved up against much younger sandstone. The Amnicon's waterfalls line up along this junction, tumbling from the hard old rock onto the soft young rock. Very few places let you walk across 500 million years in a single afternoon. Just downstream, the river drops again at the lower falls. This cascade is wider and more broken than the upper falls, sliding over shelves of reddish stone in braided ribbons of white. Above it, framing the whole scene, stands the park's famous covered bridge. The falls and the bridge together make one of the most photographed views in this corner of Wisconsin. Notice the rock here. It is layered and reddish, nothing like the black basalt upstream. We have just crossed onto the young side of the fault. The reddish rock at the lower falls is Lake Superior sandstone. It formed from sand carried by streams flowing into an ocean that covered much of Wisconsin millions of years ago. Look closely, and you can read its story, flat horizontal layers stacked like pages, split by straight vertical cracks called joints. The river works those joints like a crowbar. When the current undermines a wall on the northeast bank, whole slabs of sandstone separate cleanly along the joint planes and drop away. The falls you see today is a work in progress, still being carved one slab at a time. Now we walk the bridge itself. It is 55 feet long, wooden and fully covered, spanning the river right at the lower falls. Inside, the light goes dim and the boards knock underfoot while the falls sound echoes off the roof. Openings along the sides frame the whitewater below like pictures in a gallery. It feels like a piece of old rural Wisconsin, and it is, but its real claim to fame is hiding in its bones. This is not an ordinary covered bridge. The span beneath the roof is a Horton Bridge, a bowstring design patented by Charles M. Horton. In 1897 and 1898, while working in Duluth and Superior, Horton obtained a series of patents for bridges he claimed were stronger, lighter, and more durable than the competition. His design could be assembled quickly by ordinary workers, without expensive machinery or special tools. It was a clever idea, but history moved on to steel and concrete, and very few Horton bridges were ever built. This one, hidden under a wooden roof in a quiet state park, is one of the few of its kind, significant for both its age and its unusual construction. The bridge delivers us to an island, a wedge of forest with the river flowing around both sides. A short loop trail circles it, and it may be the best walk in the park. On one side you look back at the lower falls and the bridge. On the other, the river slips past in dark, quiet channels streaked with foam. Pines and cedars grip the thin, rocky soil, roots woven over bare stone. From out here, surrounded by moving water, the whole park seems to rearrange itself around you. The bridge was not always here. In 1930, it was moved to its present location precisely so that visitors could reach this island around which the river flows. Then in 1939, members of the Civilian Conservation Corps camp at Brule added the roof that gives it its classic covered look. The CCC put thousands of young men to work in parks and forests across the country during the Great Depression, and their craftsmanship is still overhead every time you cross. So the bridge is really 3 stories in one: an inventor's patent, a practical relocation, and a Depression-era roof. Not bad for a 55-foot span. Back across the bridge, a side trail leads to the most dramatic spot in the park, Snake Pit Falls. Here the river squeezes into a narrow slot and drops twice, each fall roughly 10 feet. Between the 2 drops, the water slams into rock and makes a hard 90-degree turn inside the gorge. The name fits. The channel coils like something alive. Standing at the railing, you can watch the root beer water go white with fury in a space hardly wider than a hallway. It is small, violent, and completely mesmerizing. Much of this carving was done at the end of the last ice age. As the glaciers melted, fast-flowing water poured off the ice, carrying loads of sand and rock. Where that gritty water swirled in place, it drilled round potholes straight down into the hard basalt, like a sculptor working with liquid sandpaper. You can still find those smooth bowls in the rock around the falls today. The gentle river we are walking beside is the quiet descendant of that torrent. The shape of this whole gorge is a memory of melting ice. There is a 4th waterfall here, with the best name of all, Now and Then Falls. It flows only now and then in spring snowmelt and after a good soaking rain when extra water finds a spare channel of its own. In a dry stretch you may find just a trickle threading down the rock, or nothing but a dark stain where the falls ought to be. Early October sits right on the line, so we walk over to check our luck. Either way, It is a reminder that a river is not a fixed thing. The Amnicon breathes with the seasons. People have known this country for a very long time. Nomadic hunters moved through this region as long as 9,000 years ago, in the wake of the retreating ice. Later came Great Lakes peoples, including groups of the old copper culture, who worked native copper into tools and ornaments thousands of years before Europeans dreamed the lake existed. Woodland peoples followed, living here from around 1,500 years ago onward. By the time the first Europeans arrived, this was Ojibwe country. The falls we are admiring today have had an audience for most of human history on this continent. Below the falls, the trail relaxes, following the river as it settles down and slides north. The banks here are lined with cedar and birch, and the water moves in long, smooth panes of brown glass. Every so often a ledge breaks the surface into a brief rapid, then the quiet returns. It is hard to believe this easygoing stream was a highway of commerce and travel, but for centuries, rivers like this one were the roads of the north. The first Europeans to work this river were trappers and traders, drawn by the fur trade that ran along the Lake Superior shore. They were followed in the 1850s by copper miners, chasing the same metal the old copper people had gathered ages before. The mining here never amounted to much, and the miners moved on. But each wave left its mark on the maps and its names on the land. The next arrivals would not come for what flowed in the river, or what lay under it, but for the stone itself. The trail bends away from the water and into the woods, and October takes over. Maple leaves drift down through shafts of light, and the forest floor is a mosaic of red and gold. Away from the falls, the loudest sound is your own footsteps. It is easy to feel that this forest is untouched, but that would be wrong. A little over a century ago, this quiet corner of the park rang with hammers, drills, and steam engines. In 1886, a Superior pioneer named James Barden purchased the 160 acres around the river and the waterfalls. The next year, 1887, a sandstone quarry opened here on the Amnicon. For roughly 20 years, workers cut the reddish-brown stone from the riverside, block after block. In that time, the quarry shipped more than 1 million cubic feet of brownstone. Barges and rail cars carried Amnicon stone away to build the growing cities of the Midwest. The falls kept roaring the whole time, indifferent to the industry beside them. Walking these ledges today, you can see why the quarrymen came. The sandstone breaks along clean, flat plains, almost as if it were designed for cutting. Its warm brown color, the same tone as the river, was exactly what fashionable architects wanted at the close of the 1800s. Run your eyes along an outcrop, and you can imagine the blocks coming free, each one destined for a cornice or a wall 500 miles away. The park's bedrock is scattered across half the cities of the Midwest. Brownstone was the prestige building material of the turn of the century, and Amnicon stone traveled far. It was shipped to Superior, Duluth, Chicago, Sioux City, Omaha, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and other Midwestern cities. Many of Superior's fine old buildings were built with material from this quarry, including Fairlawn, the grand mansion of Martin Pattison. So if you have ever admired a handsome brown stone facade in one of those cities, you may have been looking at a piece of this riverbank. Then fashions changed. Concrete and steel took over and the quarry fell silent. The forest closed back in. This might be the loveliest stretch of the walk, where nothing at all is happening. The river slides by without a sound, carrying its cargo of autumn leaves. Reflections of birch and pine waver on the brown water. After the roar of the falls and all that history of blasting and cutting, the silence feels earned. Places like this survive because, at some point, somebody decided they should. This one took 3 generations of decisions. The path to a public park was long. In 1932, Douglas County acquired 60 acres here, and with additional land from the Barden family, the site became a county park named Barden Park. In 1961, the county donated 165 acres to the state of Wisconsin, and Amnicon Falls State Park was born. In 1965, the town of Amnicon sold the state another 522 acres, and later purchases brought the park to its present 828 acres. Today it holds 36 campsites and welcomes visitors year-round. A river the Ojibwe named, a pioneer bought, and a quarry cut now belongs to everyone. We make our way back to the covered bridge for one last crossing. The boards knock, the falls flash white through the side openings, and the Root Beer River slides away beneath us toward the lake. It is remarkable how much is packed into this little park: 4 waterfalls, 1 billion years of rock, 9,000 years of people. Most travelers on the nearby highway pass within a few minutes of this spot and never know it is here. Their loss is our gain. Some of the best places are the small ones. Below the last rapids, the Amnicon finishes its journey, carrying its tea-dark water north to Lake Superior, the greatest of the Great Lakes. Everything we have walked past today, the tannin-stained falls, the fault line, the sandstone, belongs to the story of that inland sea. The river that fed spawning fish, floated fur traders, and powered a quarry town's ambition simply keeps flowing, as it did before any of them and will after all of us. Stand at the shore some evening and you cannot tell one river's water from another. But now you know what one of them carried on the way there. The light is turning gold as we climb the last stretch of trail toward the trailhead. Behind us, the roar of the falls fades back into that low rumble, and then into the hush of the woods. 2.5 miles, 4 waterfalls, 1 ancient fault, 1 remarkable bridge. Amnicon Falls asks very little of a visitor, a short walk, an hour or 2, and it gives back far more. October may be the perfect month for it, when the maples burn and the crowds are gone. But this river is worth meeting in any season. That is Amnicon Falls State Park near Superior, Wisconsin, a small park stacked with waterfalls, deep time, and quiet history. If you find yourself at the head of Lake Superior, give this river an afternoon and walk the covered bridge to the island. If you enjoyed this hike, more trails are always coming from the North Woods and far beyond. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.